Welcome, everybody, to Life Enrichment, a podcast with Lawrence Wilson. On today's episode, we are going to be talking about life enrichment and caring in senior communities all across the country. Lawrence, take it away.
Thank you so kindly. How many of you have any interest or relationship to life enrichment? Well, that question is a loaded one, and you may be surprised how much relationship you have to life enrichment, particularly in assisted living communities or senior life communities. Today, I have a special guest, and one of my special guests, and that is Rena Dysinger, who is a hospice liaison. Hello there, Rena.
Hello.
I wanted to just ask you here for some of our listeners. Now, of course, a lot of our listeners are professionals in one aspect or another. And, of course, a lot of your background may help them professionally as well as personally. So tell us about your role and background as a hospice liaison.
So my role as a hospice liaison, I am the person who makes that first contact, that first connection when families need to start having those next conversations. I also get to provide education for the community about services with hospice. A little bit of my background is I am a licensed personal care home administrator. I was an administrator for years prior, so I got to actually see how hospice can definitely impact my community that I worked in. And whenever the opportunity came for me to continue helping seniors, I moved into hospice because I really had a great passion for that.
You just used a key word there that I like, passion. And I went online and kind of Googled hospice liaison, and as I was going through the list, that word actually was a common word, being passionate and being compassionate in that role. How much do you enjoy that, by the way?
I really enjoy my job. I strive to have those difficult conversations with families during this very, very intimate time. And sometimes it's a starter conversation and maybe just putting down some of those myths or misconceptions that people have with hospice. And if you're not ready for your loved one or yourself to receive the gift of hospice, you may be in the future, and I just like that people can have that information to make that choice and make that decision. So I love my job.
That's pretty awesome, actually, and very helpful for that. And you used the term next season, the next stage in life, and having a care team, if you will, beside you to help answer those questions and walk you through is definitely beneficial. In your experience as a hospice liaison, of course, you're in the community a lot.
I am.
And what has been your experience, particularly with life enrichment programs or programs like life enrichment?
So I, as a personal care home administrator, I definitely see the benefits of life enrichment. I saw how having different people from the community be able to support my residents that I had. So some of that may be a home health agency or a senior care works agency, and also hospice agencies being able to come in and do special activities, which is what I love to do as the hospice liaison. I love to do different faceted activities, whether it's bring someone a treat, because if you think sometimes that these residents that live in these facilities, they've given up a lot to be there. So if I'm able to provide a little bit of something that maybe they had previously, whether it's bringing chocolate covered fruit to them that they can't go out and buy themselves anymore, if it is doing something like they used to be able to go and enjoy an apple festival, bringing that to them, and they still get to share stories of what they did whenever they were younger. I like how you
paint that picture, that mind picture of course, they're in a new part of their life. They're usually in a new environment. You providing something that recalls some good memories is definitely helpful. Part of life enrichment. Anything else to add to that?
I usually like to do activities or bring something that can, although we're doing something presently, it can also spark interest with something else. Something that I did for a community was provided centerpieces for them just at an event.
Yeah.
And they were pictures of actors and things, and that would spark memories of what my favorite, this person was so good at that, or, oh, they were so good at this. And that brought smiles to their faces and maybe some things to the surface that they don't talk about every day.
Particularly what Rena is talking about is the experience that I had, the joy that I had in introducing a new program to a facility called Prom, where we had a Saturday evening of having the residents come, some of them in their very best, and we usually like to really include family members or close friends to attend. One of the things that you mentioned, Rena, was it helps with their memory, helps bring back some fond memories, but also interaction between family and friends as well as the resident to recall stories that maybe never have been shared before. And that is a gift in itself, that family member can walk away and go, I never knew that about mom. I never knew that about dad. And of looking at pictures, having those experiences of looking at old yearbook pictures and whatnot, actually it'd be a gift during that season of life. I definitely seen that, and you mentioned about doing activities. That's one of your joys. Mm-hmm. I don't even have to ask that because I got to see you at work, and you were definitely gifted in doing activities, being creative. And I guess what's something that you could probably give some ideas to for our listeners of, if you're a creative person, if you want to volunteer with a hospice community or with a assisted living community, perhaps that's something you can take a look at in doing, because it can actually add lots of value.
And the other aspect as being an administrator is with Life Enrichment is inspiring your staff to be a part of that as well. So doing activities, something that I would do with my staff would be inspire them to, we did resident trivia. So I would challenge my staff to learn something about a member of our community that maybe someone else maybe not know, bring that to a staff meeting, and that's how maybe I never have a conversation with someone, but one of my team members did, and now I get to learn some really, really great things about these people who you care for and aspects of travel that they did, or maybe that somebody was a published author and you never knew that, things like that.
Indeed. Actually, thank you for that other aspect, bringing it to another level. For those of us who do work in communities like this, that it's more than just clocking in and clocking out, getting to know those individuals.
Because life enrichment is not just for those who you take care of. Life enrichment is for us, and getting that enrichment in your job makes you want to come back and then really, really enjoy what you do. So life enrichment is for everyone.
I love that. That is actually a great takeaway, that life enrichment is for everyone. It touches every aspect of lives, and being creative, getting to know. I like that whole idea of, particularly, if I may, just take a step back. We say everyone, but I want to take a look at just staff members, wherever you may be in senior life community, of saying, hey, my goal this week or this month is to get to know 2 of my patients or 2 of my residents. What did they do? Where did they graduate from? Where did they grow up? That sort of thing. And then maybe in the next staff meeting, you share what you've learned, so that now you're not just looking at a face. It's more engaging. That's a great idea. I love that. Life enrichment is for everyone. I love that. And I think you kind of answered this other question. What are some effective strategies for improving communication and collaboration among those in life enrichment and assisted living facilities?
So I do think that it's really good to stay connected with your residents, with your staff, not only having those community meetings, so sometimes places have things called resident council, making sure that you're able to attend that if as a staff member and even as a family member, making sure that it's communicated out to the loved ones of the facility so that they may also be present and voice things that they enjoy doing. So if gardening was something that they did with their mother or father growing up, can we do that as an activity sometime during the day and bring those things in? So getting active live feedback from families, from the resident, and utilizing the staff that are there day to day that can gather those little nuances that maybe you would never know. So keeping all of that open.
Thank you. Rena, also, as we have done life enrichment activities in life in assisted living facilities, particularly we do word games, word scramble games. We have done some gardening activities as well as exercise as a daily thing. Where, from your perspective, have you seen what are some of the cognitive benefits of having such activities in this community?
So your brain is a muscle just like all your other muscles. So making sure that you're exercising that will definitely extend some of your cognitive retention that you have. You can see some things with residents that may be reflex, and that could be because you are stimulating those parts of the brain. So being able to do the word search or categories where you're using like a letter, but then having them prompted for different things with that letter and then making correlations all around. Trivia games, having them look at things differently helps to improve and maintain that cognitive.
Which really does, I'm stating the opposite, helps communication, doesn't it? Right. And with my experience, it's been great to see residents actually as individuals. Some of them, of course, as you're aware of, where they come into a new environment, they're scared, they're shy. Doing these activities can actually spark communication with other residents.
It can spark communication, and it can also spark a connection and build those relationships with other residents at the community and also with staff. I go back to staff. I was a huge staff advocate that the staff become those residents' family, extended family. So it is very, very important to feel connected, that resident feels connected to their home, because this is their home. This is their new norm. This is their home. One, they feel safer when they can trust the people who are caring for them. And all of that is built through conversations, through life enrichment, through activities that they're doing, and those staff, encouraging your staff to participate in those activities too.
I feel a little convicted here because I believe that the next time that I do another life enrichment podcast, we are going to focus on the environment in itself, having staff members look at how they're engaging with residents, and remember they are now their family. They're now new family members, and what does that look like? What are the next steps for that? So thank you.
We want to thank Rena Deisinger for joining us today as the hospice liaison. Rena will be back with us later on in the show. After this short break, we're going to go to Shannon McCreary, occupational therapist, who's going to be talking a bit more about this subject from her perspective. Stay tuned.
All right, here we go. What is the role of occupational therapists in enhancing the lives of residents in assisted living?
So first of all, I want to share what occupational therapy is in general. So the role of occupational therapy is to look at an individual holistically and target any skills that they need to complete daily activities. So that can include anything from play for children to using the bathroom, getting dressed, grocery shopping, anything like that we can work on as occupational therapists. With individuals in an assisted living facility, typically this is those really basic daily routines: going to the bathroom, getting out of bed, getting dressed, getting washed up, getting a shower. But it also goes beyond that and works with the transition into a new setting,
Hmm.
the social situations, the
Right.
meal times, just anything that these individuals are doing throughout their day, including their hobbies. That's what we work on.
And when you mentioned that, by the way, and of course, me experiencing some of this, it brings a quality to their day, let alone their week, their month, and of course, you mentioned a new environment. Yeah.
Absolutely.
How do occupational therapists collaborate with life enrichment programs in assisted living?
So we can work with the life enrichment team to, share our insight into an individual and share our insight into how we see the groups functioning as a whole as
Hmm.
well. When we work with a client on our caseload, we do our best to, like I mentioned before, get that holistic view of them, really figure out what makes them tick. And we can use that knowledge to provide insight into who they are and
Hmm.
what might get them engaged and
Yes.
what might be a beneficial activity for them to participate in.
Yeah, actually, I'm glad you mentioned that because in our earlier conversations, you did bring another element to that, and that is you're not just spending 15 minutes, 30 minutes with them. You want to get to know them as an individual. That is also the other aspect of an occupational therapist. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I really strive to make a personal connection with everyone that I touch. Sometimes that's this element of therapeutic listening where we take, sometimes it's them expressing their traumas and their hardships that they experienced in their life, leading them to this point, guiding them through that, and sometimes even using that to push them through their therapy and their life.
Thank you for that. Again, I'm thinking of a resident who has a personal goal, whether it is a realistic one or it's just something that this person has put in front of them, and that is they would like to someday be able to drive and someday be able to mow the lawn. It seems to be a motivator for this person, for this individual to go to occupational therapy. Uh,
Absolutely.
so that's a great, I guess that's a great example of you actually taking that time, that quality time with them individually. From your perspective as a therapist, what are the most successful life enrichment activities you have observed at the facility that you've worked at?
So I think two jump out to me right away when you ask that question. And one is the morning exercise group. I think that really motivates a number of residents to get up and get moving. I can see also the benefit of that for those individuals that were previously on a therapy caseload, whether it's OT, PT, or both, continuing this element of daily movement, which is
Hmm,
so
hmm,
important for our minds and our bodies.
hmm.
And so I think that is a fantastic activity that is held. And I also love that it's not the same every single day. Some days it's more stretching, some days it's more
Yeah.
vigorous exercise. And I think that's very beneficial. The other one that jumps out to me when you ask that question is kind of the more cognitive focused games. One stands out specifically of kind of a word scramble. So there's a word and you're trying to make other words from this original word, or sometimes two words or a phrase. I see both elements of teamwork in that, kind of using other individuals' answers to come up with new ones, and just, all of the cognitive processes that have to occur to work through that. And I think that's a fantastic activity.
Thank you for that. And do you see the importance of in life enrichment activities, and the other word can be activities coordinating, whether or not using daily exercise or activities that utilize cognitive approaches. In your profession, do you see that as a real need, as a necessity?
Oh, absolutely. I think even looking at ourselves who aren't in an aging population, that daily mental stimulation and activity is just important for us as it is for them. And I think sometimes with aging, we think, you're slowing down, you imagine a more sedentary life, but that's not what it should be unless it has to be. And I think even for somebody who is leading a more sedentary life later in their, as they age, any element of movement is still so, so valuable. You know, we hear use it or lose it. That's how both the mind and the body are. So those activities are so valuable.
And not to be cute, but the move it or lose it. And from your profession, is that for real?
Oh, my two favorites are motion is lotion and use it or lose it. I absolutely think those hold very true.
How can occupational therapists help residents overcome the psychological barriers to participation, such as fear of failure or social anxiety?
I'm going to focus on social anxiety first there,
Sure,
and then I might have you repeat the question back to me.
sure.
So for some of these individuals coming into this environment for the first time, the therapy team might be some of the first people they interact with beyond the people helping them move in, maybe the marketing and managing team who pitched the building to them, were some of the first people that they meet and work with. A lot of times, especially when it's someone who has just moved in, there is some apprehension or fear or feelings of sadness with this change. Being able to be a listening ear
Hmm.
and give them some guidance and some goals to work toward, I think can really help to bring them out of their shell. I think especially there's valuable value in when we get them out of their rooms and we come and we work in the therapy gym. That social interaction holds value as well, whether that's just observing another therapist and client working together, or it's all of a sudden we're a room full of people talking and getting engaged with one another. And I think there's huge benefit to that.
You actually answered both those questions.
Perfect.
You mentioned about getting them out of the rooms. This seems to be a human tendency, whether we are in a new environment or if we're in a state of apprehension. We want to cocoon ourselves
Hmm.
in a safe environment that we feel is safe and not really venture out, which, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, can over an extended period of time be unhealthy because you're not interacting, you're not exercising. Would that be true?
Oh, absolutely. I think I hear occasionally about mental health challenges that these individuals are facing. And I think a lot of it comes from not necessarily feelings of true isolation, but almost this like grieving the loss of the social and physical life that they were leading before they moved into an assisted living community. The more they engage with peers and staff and just other individuals throughout the day, the happier and more at peace I
Peace.
see them being.
Okay. As you're sharing, faces are coming to my mind, and one aspect is an individual who they're to themselves a lot, not necessarily talkative. A matter of fact, they can probably go throughout an entire day and not speak to anyone. They're perfectly fine. It's part of the personality. And yet, what I have experienced with the life enrichment program is engaging beyond just activities, but one-on-one. This one particular individual that you know of, perhaps I'm sure, has a fascination and has a great wealth of information and experience in aviation. And this person I was able to engage with by asking some questions, and then they invited me to come visit them so that I can take a look at their aviation maps and charts. And I did for over an hour, and actually lost track of time after an hour because actually I learned a lot personally, and I always had a lot of questions about navigation and what does this look like and what does that look like. And then I realized after doing that a couple times that it was when I would pass this person, they would engage and say, "Hey, how's it going? Hello." And then it just became, there was another level of communication because of that engagement. What you just shared really brought that to my mind. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think just to share another story, I think
Yeah.
of kind of a friendship that I watched develop between two individuals. This experience that I just shared of feeling that grieving loss for
Yes.
the life you were living and difficulty moving into the new environment. I saw this person kind of isolating initially when they moved in. And then slowly, as they began to engage in these life enrichment activities, I saw such a close friendship form with another resident. And all of a sudden, they weren't just eating lunch together, going to activities together, but they'd spend their free time sitting on the front porch in the rocking chairs together and just enjoying each other's company. And I saw that add so much value in this individual's life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Have you observed any instances where life enrichment activities have had a positive impact on resident health and well-being? And you sort of answered this earlier, but if you want to expound, you can go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like
So
an improved mood, increased social interaction, improved physical function.
yeah. So I think I'll use the exercise example again, at least first. In there are individuals who are not currently or have never been on the therapy caseload that I'm aware of who really value attending that exercise session. And I see that add a lot of value to their day. And I also think it can help to carry over what they have developed in their therapy sessions to continue that movement. And I think that's great to see, even if it's not development of new skills, but maintenance of the skills that they have in an aging population. That's very important.
Indeed. Indeed. And then lastly, what are some of the most common resident feedback you've heard regarding life enrichment activities and from your perspective as an occupational therapist?
All right, so I'm gonna stereotype the aging population here, but bingo.
Ah,
Boy, do we look forward to bingo. I have to know who attends bingo because I cannot, if they're a bingo resident, I cannot have them for therapy in that bingo time. It's a non-negotiable. Bingo is a social event. It's the activity of the week for
yeah,
some of these residents.
yes.
And for others, I'll give it to them. They look forward to, they tell me, bingo's not my thing. I like those activities that are more engaging, more mentally stimulating. I'm either sitting and I'm learning or and I'm engaging in a cognitive challenge. But then that also speaks to the value of those activities. Those are the things people tell me, oh, I don't want to go to therapy. I really enjoy this activity where I'm building words or where I'm learning. And it depends on the individual and it maybe depends on their background, but
Yeah,
different people click with different things. And I think
yeah,
there's value in all of them.
definitely. Definitely. And thank you for sharing that part too. It just makes me think about with how I went about doing life enrichment, just allowing them to know that these things are there, whether or not they attend or not, they're there. And sometimes that could be helpful in the back of their minds. Well, now I have an option. I'm gonna
Absolutely.
always take the option, but just as humans, we enjoy just having options, and that can be a sense of freedom in itself.
Absolutely. And I think another specific resident comes to mind in for a while, I didn't see them engage in many activities. We all know Lawrence has a specific knock, and we haven't heard that knock, but I'm sure any of us could replicate it now. But I mean, you go door to door and you knock on their door. They hear your knock. They know you're coming. They know you're about to pitch some activity to them. And that doesn't stop just because they don't participate sometimes.
Right.
And all of a sudden, I started routinely seeing this resident and at activities. And I figured one day your knock must have worked.
Never giving up on either of them, any of them.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, and I'm sure because you've been in this work environment, this workspace longer than I have, you're able to really appreciate the value. We're not just going in there just to do something, whether we're not just doing an exercise, we're not doing just an activity, but we want to add value. So I
Absolutely.
greatly appreciate that. And I greatly appreciate you being part of our podcast.
So
Absolutely.
that and the insights that you just shared beyond, well, it is part of life enrichment, but what is awesome about this is that those who will be watching our podcast or going on to the page, they can now learn more about occupational therapy for the one aspect that I believe, and it's a great assumption, I could be just assuming, but many people don't understand that occupational therapy is beyond just for occupation, and yeah, it's how we live, it's how we go about our day. So that could be a great learning experience for our listeners and viewers. So appreciate that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think there's not a whole lot of understanding about what my profession is. I know every once in a while I show up for the first time. I'm like, hey, I'm here from occupational therapy. I'm going to do your initial evaluation. They're like, I am retired. I don't need you. Um, and so I have to go into my little elevator pitch of what I actually do. And, I'm not here to make you go back to work. You can stay in retirement.
I'm grateful that we can be a platform to further educate and also open some eyes up of options, opportunities to continue to go. And because life has different seasons, right? And there are options out there to help us in those different seasons. So thank you so much, Shannon. Really greatly appreciate it. This is Lawrence Wilson with Shannon, occupational therapist. If you want to learn more about occupational therapy or about Shannon's work, please visit us here on our podcast for more information. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right.